Hi guys, it's Jan from Melbourne Foodforest. We're heading into the last month of spring. It's a glorious and warm day today, and let's take a look at what's happening around the garden. Our Kiwiberry, which I've introduced you to on a previous video, is in full bloom with lots and lots of baby fruit on the way. You can see it's making its way up this trellis, and I've got to train these loose bits in so it keeps going up rather than draping down. But as these gorgeous white bell-shaped flowers, which are very delicate, and then the very inside of the flower, once the petals drop off, actually become the fruit. You can see there's little green smooth fruit there. So that's the difference between a kiwi berry and kiwi fruit. They are related, but kiwi berries are smaller. They're about this big when ripe and hairless, and they taste amazing. Amazing, much sweeter and more fragrant and interesting, I think, than kiwi fruit. So this is probably the most flowers that our Kiwiberry has had since we've had it for about 2 years now. So it is in a very, very shady spot against the back wall of our shed and under some huge trees. It pretty much only gets a couple of hours at most of morning sun, but it actually is doing really well. I think with more sun it would be much happier, just like with kiwi fruit. They really can grow in full blistering sun and be very happy. But I'm super excited. Looks like we're in for a pretty decent harvest this year. So it's kind of tangled amongst our other companion plants. This is like a mint scented geranium, which is beautiful. But yeah, it's weaving through here. You can see all the flowers up here, here, and further up. So I think it's really getting established, and I'm looking forward to a decent harvest this year and an increasing harvest every year after that, because they're just really, really delicious fruits. Much more tame and controlled than standard kiwi fruit. It doesn't get out of control. It's got delicate leaves that are quite ornamental. I actually think this would be a beautiful screener if you need to kind of block out something, and it's a great climber. This is a self-fertile plant, which means you only need one plant in order for it to bear fruit. As you can see here, only got one plant here on its lonesome, but still heaps of baby fruit on the way. So look forward to updating you once the fruit get a bit bigger and we can do some taste tests perhaps. And banana passion fruits. Oh, it's a mosquito. Go away. Look, some of them are turning yellow. That's how you know when they're ready to eat. They've got to feel soft and turn yellow. So at this stage, very sour, still edible, but this is when they're ready to go. And if you remember in our last Foodforest tour, I was saying how I was planning to train the banana passion fruit along our shed roof. Look how far it's gotten. So last video I think it had just started climbing, and now it's all the way down there, almost at the end. So vigorous. Single plant. Let's take a look how it's doing. It's like really gone crazy again. Now that the weather's started to warm up just a little. I think we need to start harvesting some of these soon before the possums or the rats or some other animal gets to them. It's starting to turn yellow. So cool. Hidden in there, there's a thicket of vine here, and I think there's lots of fruit hiding in here, and there we go, there's some. While it's green, it's quite camouflaged and hard to see, but once it ripens, I think it'll make it a bit easier to see once it turns golden. Yeah, I can see it kind of hiding everywhere. And this will need a good prune as well. Look at all these shoots that are coming out. I'll push them all back in. Keep training them along this fence line. Oh my gosh, more fruit. I can see more fruit. There. See that? And it's just gone wild again. We're trying our best to keep it on our side of the fence, but I can see, yeah, it's crept over. Need to keep training it back in. And along this fence line, we also have heaps more berries like this. Small raspberries, which we need to tie back in because they're starting to take over the whole path. So we've actually got berries planted all along here. And this one's a native raspberry, which are gorgeous purple flowers. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, which are just setting now. I wish I had shown you them, but I missed it. So you can still see purple buds there. But yeah, all the different cane berries have slightly different flowers. Some are white, some are pink. You can see here. I've got some young berries here, which are one of my favourite berries. They're coming along quite well. So really, along our entire fence line, we've planted berries. And we get loads off these despite them being in full shade. Full shade. You can see why. Look up. Trees everywhere, fence line everywhere, no direct sun ever, but still pretty decent harvest. Oh, little snail. Just gotta dispose of that. Such a snail plague this year and the past year since it's been really wet conditions down the southeastern side of Australia. Yeah, so very excited about these. There's another snail. See, it's my pest management in action. I squish them as I see them, add it back to the soil, but they're truly everywhere. And so in this crazy food forest side of our garden, you can see here our avocados. Look at that, it's flowering. And this avocado tree, if you know the history of it, you'll know why I'm so excited that it's flowering, because this tree was actually here before we moved in. And in our first year here, it was covered in beautiful flowers. And then one winter, we came out, it was a much smaller tree back then, and the whole thing was stripped bare by possums. I kid you not, it honestly took 7 years for the foliage to grow back. I thought the tree was dead, so it was really struggling. And in recent years, we have been pruning it away from the fence because possums like to run along the fence line and then jump onto the tree. Possums in particular love avocado trees for some reason, including the foliage in winter, because there's not much food in winter as our deciduous trees drop their leaves. There's only the evergreens, avocados are evergreen in our climate, left, and possums will jump on and just strip them bare. And avocado trees are quite sensitive when they're young and can take a long time to bounce back, or they may not bounce back at all. So, I mean, you know, it took 7 years to get leaves back, and in the past 3 years it's been getting healthier and bigger, but we haven't seen any flowers. And so this year, flowers! There's little buds, can you see them? Little golden buds. Let me see if I can show you a bit closer. So excited because avocado is, you know, expensive to buy, yet so easy to grow in a temperate climate. I don't know what variety it is, so there can be pollination issues. They do need, you know, you'll hear about an A variety and a B variety and all that sort of stuff, whereas some varieties only need one and can pretty much self-pollinate. So the flowers open at different times of day, so it can get complicated. So I am not sure what we have. I'm not sure if it has a pollinating partner. But, you know, we will find out. So I'll show you also here that massive avocado here, which we grew from seed ourselves. This is maybe about 10 years old, and this was a tiny tree, even as of a couple of years ago. But this year it has really taken off and shot up. So we'll need to keep pruning that back because I want to keep them reachable dwarf size. Full-size avocado trees can get to 10 meters tall. So basically as tall as that tree up there. So you don't want that. you don't want that because it's too hard to harvest, and animals will get to all the fruit before you do. So I'm going to keep cutting this one back because it's put up a really long big shoot. I want it to be short and stout. That's what we want for the trees in our food forest. More varieties, but not for an individual tree to be too big and dominant. We want lots of different trees to exist in harmony. And so, yeah, really excited about that. Don't know if it's going to eventuate because we might find we don't have pollinators. This tree is still young. When you grow from a pip, yeah, it can take 10 years or more for it to start flowering. I've never seen it flower. So I don't think it's going to provide a pollinating partner for that one this year. But we'll find out if it's able to, you know, if it's self-fertile and able to be pollinated from its own pollen. And BABACO, oh my gosh, they're getting fat. We've had a few drop off, which we've been enjoying. But yeah, that one I think I need to cut off before it drops, because if you let it drop off, that's fine. That does mean it's ripe, but it does mean it doesn't store well because they get damaged as they drop, because they're so soft. So you won't store as well. So I think I'm going to cut that before it drops like the others. And I'm seeing lots of snails. Snails there seem to love BABACO, so I think I need to, you know, do some squishing there. But yeah, it's been so happy, this tree. It's getting tall. Once it gets really tall, you'll need to lop it and encourage some more side shoots, and you can use it also to propagate new BABACOs. New plants, BABACO plants, I mean. So yeah, that is getting tall now. You can see better from this angle how we've pruned this avocado tree away from the fence. I think we need to do a bit more pruning because it's starting to head that way again. But before, when it got attacked by the possum, it was like right over the fence. So that was a perfect, you know, jumping distance for the possum. Now we're just trying to deter it from going for our tree, and hopefully it goes for something else. And it seems to have worked for the past 3 years. So just keeping things away from the fence line can make a big difference if you're having pest problems. A raspberry arch is heaving with fruit. They haven't changed colour yet, but I can see so many on the way. If you're interested in these are a heritage. They're called a heritage raspberry. They are a heritage variety of raspberry too, but they fruit almost continuously over the warm weather, with the biggest harvest being now, so the late spring, early summer. You can see these are not too far off. The flower petals have dropped off and now the fruit are just plumping out, but there's heaps. So if you're interested, I'll link our berry video where we go into these and 5 of our other berries in a lot of detail, and you'll see how amazing this arch looks once all the fruit are ripe, which I think is not that far off, perhaps, oh gosh, 3 weeks away, which is very exciting. Now similarly, look how well our blackberry arch has filled out. This is so beautiful. It's starting to turn into a jungle as our garden becomes, our food forest becomes in summer. Now this was covered in gorgeous white flowers just a couple of weeks ago, and see all those little balls there? That is all baby fruit on the way. Oh yeah, here's some more flowers, so it's still flowering in parts. This is going to be an epic harvest. Definitely our most impressive blackberry arch so far. And lots of fruit along the way in not too long. I can't wait to show you this once all the fruit start to ripen. And next to it, you can see some apples. Our apples are along the way too. This is our snow apple variety, which is snow white flesh. We have a separate video just on apples, the types of apples that we grow and how we grow them, which I will link. And apples are usually much later ripening, so not till the end of summer, and you can see they're still teensy tiny, but heaps along the way. Our massive established edible fig tree has burst back into leaf. I went away last week and I've come back and the whole garden has honestly turned into a jungle. Look really dark in these corners now because all the deciduous trees have come back to life. Oh yeah, while I get distracted, this is a mulberry tree we've got growing in a pot. So I need to find space for all of these. I don't know where I'm going to put them. I think I'm going to have to maybe give them away. But yeah, this is a black variety of mulberry. Look, so beautiful. I love that colour. I think that one's ready for eating. Let me just pick that and try it. That's good. It's got great flavour to it. Could be a bit sweeter. I could leave them longer, but yeah, how beautiful are mulberry trees. And back to our fig. This fig variety produces the most beautiful, huge purple figs. So it does have an early flush of fruit, and then I find its biggest harvest comes later. So it comes in summer. But it is just a glorious tree, which we think must be at least 80 years old. And it also doubles as a play space for our kids. And under the tree have lots of yeah, just demonstrating the multi-uses of this fig tree. Provides lots of shade for us, and that it's underplanted with a crazy forest of Cape gooseberries, which just produce almost the whole year for us. And we do have a separate tutorial again just on those if you're interested. But on this side, let's turn this way. It's our epic grapefruit tree, which if you look at our earlier videos, we've got crazy harvests from those. And you can still see, can you see that? There's still some grapefruit in it, on it. Citrus is amazing that way. It's always got fruit. It's always got flowers, got baby fruit. So that's flowering again, getting ready for winter. Feels like we're literally just been, gorging on grapefruits non-stop, and a new batch is on its way. This side of the forest is getting crazy. I really need to prune. Pepino has become the dominant ground cover. I've planted all different sorts of things here, and to see, what it's going to survive. So it's really survival of the fittest, and it looks like pepinos and some salvias have been the dominant plants on this side, and some comfrey. But it is choking our lemon guava a bit, and our strawberry guava, which we've been eating off. So I think it needs a good prune to kind of tame. But yeah, you can see how many flowers that's produced, and it's just looking so healthy. The strawberry guava is covered in flowers again too. Just loads going on in spring. Now the loquats, which I showed you in a previous tour, are really starting to fill out, and slight colour change. You can see they're going from green to a little bit yellow. I'll go a bit closer and show you that in a second. They're getting close. I feel like though they're ripening quite late this year, normally for us, because we're already in November now, so 1 month off summer. Normally these are more like a mid to early spring fruit, so I am surprised that they're a bit late. Every year is different though. Conditions are different every year, but better late than never. They're getting to a really good size. And yeah, slight colour change. Oh, that's getting almost soft. So I think in about a week or 2 weeks time, we might be eating some loquats, which is incredibly exciting. If you haven't tried these before, you're in for a treat. They are really quite a superb fruit. I'm surprised they haven't been commercialized, because they taste wonderful, like a really delicious, juicy, sweet pear, perhaps, if I had to liken it to something. A beautiful white flesh inside, super juicy, super sweet, Some varieties can have quite a big pip because it hasn't been commercialized, it hasn't been bred. So some of the more wild grown varieties are quite big pips. This one is actually, you know, a decent variety. The pips are reasonably sized and lots of sweet flesh. And this is definitely the best harvest this small tree has produced for us yet. It's getting weighed down. You can see all the branches are starting to droop like this, droop down. This is our espaliered loquat. So much fruit this year. I'm super excited. Like fruit everywhere you look. Look at that. Amazing. Cherries. This is our Stella cherry variety. She is self-fertile again, so you only need one. Beautiful, super sweet, big plump cherries. Only been here again under 2 years, so just starting to take off, which is exciting. Behind her in that side of the food forest, that's all our elderberry. So we really should, you can use the flowers to make elderberry cordial or even wine. And you need two plants at least to cross-pollinate in order for fruit to form. So we only put in our second plant recently, and I did see some fruit last year, which is exciting. Our king white mulberries, also known as our white Chatoot mulberries, have really gone berserk this year with fruit. Never seen it covered in so many. Look at that, fruit everywhere you look. I just harvested 4 mega ones and ate another couple off the tree. And then I thought, hang on, I should have shown you what they look like. I did take some photos of them, but they're no longer hanging here. And these, you can see, are still skinny. Let me see, I'm just hunting around if there's any other fat ones left that I can show you. Because when they really plump out, they look amazing and just so delectable. You can see here, look how much fruit there is. There's so much on the way. Oh yeah, some of these are getting fat, but the ones that we ate just before were much bigger than this. Oh, that one just, oh, a couple just fell off. Oh. They are quite delicate. Yummy. Got a little helper here. I'm not sure if they're very yummy, but you can have them. Mm. They are very delicate. Like when the wind blows, they can fall off, so you will have some fruit drop. But with this number of fruit, I think we're still in for a pretty good harvest. Is it nice or is it weird?
It's sort of weird.
Okay. They're not ripe.
Spiky.
Spiky, yeah, when they're not ripe. And here are blueberries. I've got them in pots just under the canopy of our mulberry tree.
Panda.
What are you doing?
So cute.
And these are getting big. You see? And I have a separate blueberry tutorial specifically about how we grow these, but you know, just a large pot is all you need for a pretty decent harvest. And they can grow in shady spots, so you can see how beautiful and delicate their flowers are. Little white bells, and then once the petals drop off, they turn into big plump berries. And so I've got about 6 different varieties which I've labelled. This one's our oldest one. You can see how woody that stem is. It's our blue rose. And these are some of our newer ones, which really, this one was a plant about this big a 1.5 years ago, and now it is huge. So they are fast growers if you can get their soil conditions and their pH right, and I talk about that in our tutorial. You can really get a pretty good harvest, you know, punnets and punnets just from pots. And so this short one down here is our sunshine blue. It is, you know, what you call more of a low growing shrubby blueberry. It's a bush variety and it tolerates warmer conditions much better than the other varieties, and also high pH. It tolerates high pH because most blueberries love low pH, so acidic soil. But yeah, much more detail on that in our other video. And there's more blueberries actually over there. And let's check on almonds. Look, we did get a great amount of flowers, and some fruit has set. You can see the almonds, but not great. I'd love to have a bit more. He's still a young tree, so I think that it's going to get better and better each year. But yeah, that's not really going to feed anybody. Maybe just good for nibbles. Now this is our teensy tiny dwarf peach trees. Peaches can actually get quite big, so it is well worth getting a dwarf, but this is one of those really, really tiny pixie dwarf ones. And you can see that's just grown in a pot. And it is a decent producer. And we've only had this for about 2 years, and it produces a decent crop. I've actually just recently moved it to the front yard because the spot that I had it in under another tree, it became too shady. So we do need to adjust our food forest as time goes on, because as the big trees above it get too big, some of the areas aren't as great for growing anymore. You can trim them back, of course, but or I've had to relocate this. So look at these beautiful little peaches. And I actually didn't spray for peach leaf curl this year, so you can see here a bit of peach leaf curl. Look, this tree has a bit, but actually surprisingly not much. So I'm going to go through and just pinch off these that have the leaf curl. Leaf curl is a fungus that comes down in the rain. I suspect this isn't badly affected because of where I've got it. It's actually sort of under the eave of our house a little bit, so maybe it didn't get a lot of rain on it early spring when the leaf curl fungus comes down in the rain. So I'm going to remove these because it can live in the soil and then splash back up. Going to remove these affected leaves, and other than that, it looks pretty good. Going to top up with a bit more compost and mulch down here. Something I have been really vigilant with, and this applies to all grafted varieties of fruit trees, passion fruit. You've really got to be careful to recognize where the graft is. So here I can tell that the graft starts here. And you can see why, because the bark is actually a bit different down here compared to up here. You can see lots of little knobbly bits. And also this big knuckle here, that's where it was grafted. You can see here, it's joined up here. So what I've been really careful to do is to remove any growth below the graft, because any growths below the graft belong to the rootstock, and we don't want the rootstock, because the rootstock is great, provides a great framework and feeds our tree, but doesn't produce good fruit typically. Or the rootstock in some varieties is super vigorous, and you don't want the rootstock to start taking over what's from your actual fruit. So I have found massive bits of rootstock growing out here, and I've just been pinching that off, dropping it down here, fertilizing the tree with it. So that's something that's really important to do if you have grafted varieties of fruit. This is our quince tree. First year we've had it. It was gifted to us by someone who couldn't look after it anymore. So all I've done is repotted it and moved it to a slightly bigger pot. A few weeks ago it had the most glorious flowy white flowers that would rival any ornamental, and I didn't think it was going to produce any fruit because it was quite a sad tree, so we really had to do our best to kind of bring it back to life. And look, it's got a fruit on it. You never know if that's going to truly set and get big, but it's exciting nonetheless. Quinces are so beautiful. I really want to plant this in the ground this winter. Winter is a great time to plant deciduous trees because they're dormant, so they'll drop all their leaves and they'll be dormant, but we've just got to clear up some more space first in our front yard, so we've got to get rid of some of these shrubby trees, which we have been gradually getting rid of. And I'll show you, see, like the front yard is looking really beautiful now. It's an in-ground worm farm. Sage, it's flowering, beautiful flowers. Tomato, it's just self-seeded, but it's the most advanced tomato we've got. Lots of watercress, a couple of There's Nagami Cumquats left. These are cool oval shaped ones. But I know my kids and husband have been snacking on this, so there's not many left. And yeah, so this is an espaliered apple. You should definitely check out our specific apple video where we just talk about apples. But this was planted last year, where we got rid of lots of this sort of shrubbery, and we're starting to do espaliering, which I hope to do along this border too. But this is a gradual transformation of our front yard. And look, you can see how much fruit is on the way. All these little flowers are going to set into fruit, hopefully. Because we got a pretty decent harvest off this last year. This is a golden delicious variety.
Like a bird on a tree,